All right, the next thing we're going to work on is styling up our navigation. And to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by adding an unordered list, or an ID rather, to my unordered list here. And I'm going to create an ID tag, and I'm just going to call it nav to simplify things so that I know this is the ID that's linked to navigation. The reason why I'm putting an ID on this particular UL is that I might have other unordered lists later on in my web design here, so I want to make sure that this one is the only one that this navigation style gets applied to. And then I'll pop over here to my style sheet, my style.css sheet, and we'll go ahead and start writing some styles for this. So I'll reference the nav ID with a pound sign or hashtag NAV, just like this, and that tells the browser to look for an ID of nav over on the other side. And then I'm going to do a couple of things. The first thing I'm going to do is that because this is an unordered list, it has some padding that's set on it by default. I'll go ahead and open it up in Firefox and show you guys what I'm talking about. Okay, so here we are. This is my example, and then we have a little bit of padding set over here. You can see if we take a look in the web inspector what's going on there. The navigation itself, the unordered list, has padding of 40 pixels that's set by the browser by default. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. We'll go back over to here and we'll set the padding to 0. Save and refresh the page over in Firefox. And as we refresh the page, that padding goes away, which is great. The next thing that I want to do is to go ahead and we'll get rid of those bullets as well. They're still here in Firefox, you just can't see them because they're off to the left side of the page. But we'll go back through and add them and get rid of the bullets as well. This is the list style type command, and you can see that there's a whole bunch of list style types that, that Adam will suggest for you. We're just going to select none. We'll save the page, refresh again, get back over to Firefox, and the bullets are now gone. You couldn't see them, but trust me, they're gone. And then the navigation itself, the list items themselves, I want to go ahead and change up just a little bit. So the nav list items, this is an example of a compound command if you remember from the reading CSS example that we had a little bit earlier. This is telling the browser to look for any list items that are inside of something with a hashtag, with a ID of nav. So the nav list items, not the other list items on the page. We're going to give them a border on the bottom of 1 pixel solid, and we're going to make it this kind of dark gray CCC color. We'll save that. We'll look back over here, and then on the bottom of the navigation here they have a border that's a little bit subtle, but it'll look a little bit nicer once we change up the way that these things are actually working. And then we also want to go ahead and style up those links just a little bit to make them look a little bit more like what we have in our finished version here. So this is going to be kind of a long command, and this is where having watched the how to read CSS video might come in handy. But what we're going to do is we're going to type in #nav a:/link, and then we want a comma here because we're going to the comma is going to tell the browser to set the same styles for both of these items, and then the nav a visited. And then we'll go ahead and start writing our commands here. So we're setting the styles for the anchors themselves, the link elements, the A elements on the page for the link, which as you recall is the default unstyled version of this, or rather the first styled version of this, what it should look like if the user hasn't clicked on it. And then also for the visited link here, I don't want those to change between the two states. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. For navigation, you usually don't want the navigation to show up as you visited pages before. And we're going to do a few things here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put in the display block command here. Links by default are inline elements, but I can use the display command to change them to block level elements. And when I do that, something happens, which is that I can click anywhere where this link is now, the amount of width that it takes up, and I can go to where the link is. I don't have to just click on the little thing itself. This is awesome for mobile users and people in general who might be going from one corner of the page to another suddenly to be able to get there a little bit better. I'm going to do a couple of other things here. I'm going to set a color on my links of FFF, which is white. When I do that and I save and refresh the page, they'll go away, or almost go away, because you can see that, that they are blending into the background here. And then we'll also go through and set a background color on those links as well. The background color that I'm going to set here is this #98BF21. And it's a green color. The reason I'm using that is that if you Google how to build a mobile, or how to build a menu, essentially, the link that you're going to go to first is going to be the one from W3 Schools, and I intentionally modeled this after that to be as close to it as possible. So 98BF21, and then we'll do a few more things to the font. We're going to give it a font weight command of bold, and you'll see that there are some numbers in here, and we'll talk about those when we talk about typography a little bit later. Font weight to bold, we're going to text align the text to center. We can do this for things like menus and sometimes headlines. Don't ever do that with the body text. We will get rid of the underline on the links themselves. So we'll say none, text decoration, none. And then when we do that, let's go ahead and save here, and we'll refresh over in Firefox and look at how these things are looking. So that's looking pretty decent. We've got them centered. They're there. It looks a little bit weird to have them in the sans serif font, so I'm actually going to change the font family as well. I'm going to use the same as above, Helvetica, Arial, Serif. And then we'll add a little bit of padding all the way around. So once those links are sitting there, you can see that they kind of mesh up, that's the term of art, of course, next to one another. We'll add some padding all the way around them to make them, we'll just add about 4 pixels to make them sit a little bit more nicely in relation to one another. This padding gets added all the way around, and you see that that pushes the border down. And if you recall how the CSS box model works, that's as expected. So the content itself has a size, and then the padding itself has a size as well that serves to sort of you know, make some space for this link to be a little bit more easily clickable. So 4 pixels of padding. And then what we'll do is we will start styling the hover and the active states of this link. Now this is one where a lot of people might want to try to recapitulate what they've done before. In other words, you know, think that they have to go through and type. This is where you learn that I can't talk and type at the same time. So it's the visited state. You know, go ahead and like copy and paste all this stuff in here for this to work, and we don't. This is just what's happening when something changes, the state of the link changes. So all these styles will be inherited in the hover and the visited states by default. What we're going to do is we're going to change the background color to this little other slightly different green, and it's #7A991A. Again, you don't have to follow this exactly. This is just what's going to be in the finished example, so we'll take a look at it that way. Refresh the page, and now we see that this is a visited link. I've been here before because I've clicked on this, and then these other links that are not visited yet, I get the little rollover effect on when I roll over them. So that's kind of cool, and we have a vertical menu navigation here. There are many ways to make this horizontal and then change it back to vertical. The simplest by far is to use the Flexbox tools that we have here, but as this stands, this is a totally fine mobile menu, and we're building mobile first, so we're just going to leave it there as it stands right now. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause there so this video doesn't get too long, and in the next one we'll go ahead and finish our caption, and then we'll style up our footer and get rid of an image border.